Have you ever heard a knock at your door in the middle of the night? You tell yourself it's nothing, a branch hitting the siding, maybe the wind. But what if, when you finally checked, you saw children standing there, pale, quiet, dressed oddly, asking to be let in? Most people wouldn't think twice children at night must need help, right? But what if I told you there are reports from across America, especially in Texas, of people who open their doors to children with one terrifying feature: their eyes, pitch black. No whites, no pupils, just endless dark, and those who let them in aren't here to tell the story. The story begins. It was late November of 1996 when Gary Mitchell, a 42-year-old truck driver from Abilene, Texas, came home after a long haul. His small one-story house sat alone on the edge of a dirt road, surrounded by dry fields and the husks of dead mesquite trees. He had always liked the isolation. It gave him peace after endless nights on the interstate. That night, however, peace was the last thing he would know. Around 2:30 a.m., Gary woke to the sound of knocking. Slow, rhythmic, knock, knock, knock. He sat up in bed, rubbing his eyes. His dog, Duke, a German shepherd, was whining low, ears pinned back. That was unusual. Duke normally barked at the slightest sound. The knocking grew louder. Gary grabbed the flashlight from his nightstand and walked barefoot across the creaking wooden floor. He peeked through the blinds. 2 children stood on his porch. At first, he thought they were maybe 8 or 9 years old, a boy and a girl. They were pale, almost gray in the moonlight, and wore clothes that didn't seem right for the 1990s, like hand-me-downs from the 1960s. The boy wore a button-up shirt tucked into high pants, while the girl had on a faded dress with long sleeves. But it was their stillness that unsettled him. Children usually fidget, shift their weight, or whisper. These 2 stood completely still, staring at the door. Gary cracked the door open, careful not to unlatch the chain. "What are you kids doing out here?" "It's the middle of the night." The girl spoke first, her voice flat. "Sir, we need to come inside. Our parents will be here soon." Gary frowned. "Where do you live?" "I can call someone for you." The boy's lips curved into the faintest hint of a smile. "Please, just let us in." Duke growled, a deep rumble that vibrated through the floorboards. The fur along his back stood straight up. Something about the children's tone gnawed at Gary's instincts. He lifted the flashlight higher, trying to get a better look. That's when the girl tilted her head upward, and Gary froze. Her eyes were black, not dark brown, not shadowed, but completely black, from lid to lid, like ink poured into the sockets. Gary stumbled back, slamming the door shut so hard the walls rattled. His heart pounded against his ribs. He pressed his back to the wood, trying to steady his breathing. The knocking returned instantly, louder this time. K-N-O-C-K, K-N-O-C-K. "Knock." "Sir," the boy's voice called from the other side, still calm, but sharper now, almost annoyed. "We can't come in unless you let us." Gary grabbed the shotgun from above the fireplace. He had hauled freight through storm country and rattlesnake land. He wasn't easily scared, but the sight of those eyes, it shook him to the bone. He shouted through the door, "Get off my porch, or I'll call the police." Silence. He listened for footsteps retreating into the night, but there were none. Only Duke's trembling growl, low and constant. Finally, curiosity pushed him to look again. He pulled the blinds open, hand shaking. The porch was empty. The kids were gone. But then, as he exhaled with relief, a sound cut through the house. 3 slow knocks. K-N-O-C-K. K-N-O-C-K. Knock. This time, it came from the back door. Gary spun, nearly dropping the flashlight. Duke barked fiercely, running toward the kitchen. Gary followed, shotgun ready. When he reached the back door, he stopped cold. Through the small glass pane, he saw them again, the black-eyed children standing perfectly still. The boy's face pressed to the glass, smiling now. And in that moment, Gary realized something that made his blood run cold. He hadn't heard them walk from the front porch to the back. No footsteps. No crunching leaves. Nothing. They had simply appeared. Gary's hands trembled on the shotgun as the boy's face pressed against the back door glass. The black eyes reflected nothing, no light, no life, just emptiness. The girl stood behind him, still, her lips moving silently as if whispering something Gary couldn't hear. "Get away from my house," Gary shouted, his voice breaking. The boy smiled wider. His breath fogged the glass, but when Gary looked closer, it wasn't fog, it was darker, almost like smoke curling upward and fading into the night. "Sir," the boy said calmly, his voice vibrating like an echo from inside Gary's head rather than from outside. "You don't have to be afraid. We won't hurt you. We just need to come inside." Duke barked furiously, claws scratching at the linoleum floor. The dog leapt at the door, teeth bared. The children didn't flinch. Gary's instincts screamed to pull the trigger, but something in the back of his mind told him that would be a mistake. He aimed the flashlight instead. The beam hit the boy's face, but the black eyes absorbed the light like a void, swallowing it whole. Then came the scratching. At first, Gary thought it was Duke's claws, but no, the sound was coming from the door itself. Long, slow scratches as though nails were dragging down the wood. The girl's lips still moved, whispering, whispering, whispering. Gary backed away. "I'm calling the sheriff," he yelled. He grabbed the phone from the wall, dialing with shaking fingers. Static filled the line loud, sharp, almost deafening. He pulled the receiver from his ear in pain. When he looked back at the door, they were gone again. The glass showed only the empty night. The mesquite trees swayed under a light wind. Duke stopped barking, though his body was rigid, ears flat, eyes fixed on the door. Gary lowered the shotgun, exhaling a shaky breath. His mind raced. Was he dreaming? Was this exhaustion after weeks of long-haul trucking? But then came the knock. Not from the doors this time, from the windows. Tap, tap, tap. In the living room. Tap, tap, tap. In the kitchen. Tap, tap, tap. In the bedroom down the hall. The sound surrounded him like small hands rapping against every window of the house, one after another, moving in a circle. Gary's heart pounded as he turned in every direction. He saw faint shapes outside the glass, shadows of children moving just beyond the light, their heads tilting unnaturally as they tapped. "Let you in." The voice boomed from all sides at once, filling the house. It was both the boys and the girls, layered together, a hollow chorus. Gary dropped to his knees, clutching his ears. Duke howled, backing into a corner, tail tucked between his legs. Then, just as suddenly, silence, absolute silence. Gary dared to look up. Every shadow was gone. The windows showed only the night. For the first time in his adult life, Gary felt tears sting his eyes. He wasn't a man who's scared easily. He'd faced near crashes, drunks with knives, even a tornado once, but nothing compared to this. This wasn't natural. He decided to leave. He couldn't stay here. Gary grabbed his car keys and hurried to the front door. His hand hovered over the chain lock, but something stopped him. He peeked again through the blinds. The kids were back, standing at the edge of his porch now, side by side, staring straight at the door. Their bodies didn't move, but their heads tilted in unison, too slow, too synchronized. And then the girl spoke, not through the door, but directly into his mind. "You can't leave. Not until you invite us in." Gary stumbled backward, clutching his head. "What the hell are you?" he whispered. The boy smiled again. This time, his mouth opened wider than it should have, lips stretching too far, exposing teeth that were too sharp for a child. "We are hungry," the voice inside him said. "And you opened the door once. You will open it again." Suddenly, the lights in the house flickered, once, twice, and then went out completely. Darkness swallowed everything. Gary's flashlight beam jittered across the walls. Duke whined. The temperature dropped, cold enough that Gary saw his own breath in the beam. A sound rose from the floorboards, deep and low, a thumping, like something crawling beneath the house. Slow, dragging movements. The boards creaked under invisible weight. Gary held Duke close, his shotgun shaking in his grip. God help me. From the darkness, a whisper brushed his ear, close, intimate, as if someone was right behind him. Just let us in. He spun around, flashlight shaking wildly. Nothing there. And then he heard it, the back door latch clicking. On its own. The click of the back door latch echoed through the dark house like a gunshot. Gary's flashlight beam swung toward the kitchen. The handle turned slowly, though no hand touched it. Duke snarled, teeth bared, his body rigid like a coiled spring. The door creaked open just an inch. Cold night air rushed in, carrying the smell of dirt and something rotten, like spoiled meat. Gary raised the shotgun, finger trembling on the trigger. "Stay back," he shouted, his voice cracking. The door opened wider, groaning on rusty hinges, and there they were. The boy and the girl stood in the doorway, pale skin glowing faintly in the moonlight, their black eyes fixed on him. No pupils, no whites, just endless hungry voids. They didn't step forward. Instead, the girl smiled, tilting her head in that unnatural, too slow way. "You don't need the gun," she whispered. Her voice wasn't just in the air, it was inside his head, brushing his thoughts like cold fingers. Gary's grip faltered. His vision blurred for a moment, his mind fogging. A thought bubbled up, not his own. "Put it down. Let us in." He staggered back, shaking his head violently. "No, stay out." The boy's smile dropped. His lips curled downward into something sharper, something that looked wrong on a child's face. He stepped across the threshold, only for his foot to stop dead on the wooden frame. It was as if an invisible wall barred him from crossing. He hissed, low and animalistic, his black eyes flickering like pools of oil. "You have to invite us," the boy growled. His voice was no longer calm. It was layered 2, 3, 4 voices at once, some deep, some shrill. Gary backed into the living room, clutching the shotgun tight. His breathing was ragged, chest heaving. "You're not coming in my house." The children's faces changed. Their smiles twisted into grotesque expressions, mouths opening too wide, stretching ear to ear, teeth jagged and sharp. Their skin rippled as if something beneath was trying to claw its way out. The girl pressed both hands against the doorway. Her nails scraped deep into the wood, leaving long grooves. Her whisper turned into a chant words Gary couldn't understand, sharp syllables that scratched against his brain. Duke lunged forward, barking wildly. His teeth snapped just inches from the boy's leg. The children didn't flinch. Instead, the boy leaned down toward the dog, grinning. "Invite us, and he'll be ours first." Gary's blood ran cold. He pulled Duke back, gripping the dog's collar with one hand and a shotgun with the other. His heart thundered so loud he thought it might burst. Then came the pounding. Not on the doors this time, but from inside the walls. Thuds and knocks surrounded him, shaking the house. It was as though dozens of fists hammered from within the plaster, desperate to get out. Dust fell from the ceiling, light fixtures swayed. Gary stumbled back, nearly tripping over the coffee table. His ears rang with the noise, his vision spinning, and then it stopped. The silence that followed was worse than the pounding. He dared to glance back toward the kitchen door. Empty. The children were gone. Gary's chest heaved. Sweat dripped down his temple. He lowered the shotgun slightly, scanning the shadows. "Duke, where'd they go, boy?" he whispered. Duke whimpered, ears flat. His gaze darted to the hallway that led to the bedrooms. Gary turned and froze. They were inside. The girl stood halfway down the hall, her pale dress swaying though there was no wind. The boy was closer, crouched low like a predator, his black eyes locked on Gary. "No," Gary whispered. "That's impossible. You can't be in here." The girl's smile widened. Her voice was like ice in his veins. "You thought doors would keep us out?" The shotgun nearly slipped from his sweaty hands. He raised it again, pointing directly at them. "Stay back." The boy crept forward on hands and feet, moving too fast, too jagged like an insect. His head snapped to one side with a sickening crack, bones shifting under pale skin. Gary pulled the trigger. The shotgun blast thundered through the house, smoke filling the air. The recoil slammed into his shoulder. The hallway was empty. No blood, no bodies. Just the faint smell of smoke mixing with the stench of rot. Gary blinked, ears ringing. Had he imagined it? Then right beside his ear a whisper. "You missed." He spun, swinging the flashlight. The girl stood inches away, her black eyes reflecting his trembling face. Her cold breath brushed his cheek as she leaned closer. "Next time, you'll say yes." Gary stumbled backward, firing again. The blast tore through the wall, wood splintering. When the smoke cleared nothing, the children were gone. But the sound of knocking returned, not at the doors this time. From beneath the floor. Knock, 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 Gary froze as Duke howled. The boards beneath his feet vibrated, shaking as though something, many things, were crawling upward from the crawl space below the house. And then, in the quiet between knocks, a final whisper filled the air. "We are patient." The knocking beneath the floor grew louder, shaking the old wooden planks under Gary's bare feet. Duke barked wildly, circling the living room as if trying to find where the sound would break through. Knock, knock, knock. Gary aimed the shotgun at the floorboards. His breath came fast and shallow, his hands slick with sweat. "What the hell do you want from me?" He shouted. Silence. Then from every corner of the house, their voices rose together, smooth, calm, unhurried. "Let us in, Gary." Hearing his own name froze his blood. He hadn't told them. He hadn't spoken it aloud. He clutched Duke's collar, pulling the trembling dog close. "No. No, you're not real." The whisper came again, closer now, curling inside his head like smoke. "We are real. More real than you. And we are hungry." Suddenly, the living room lights flickered back on bright, almost blinding. Gary squinted, raising his arm to shield his eyes. When his vision cleared, his stomach dropped. They were inside again. The boy stood near the front door. The girl leaned against the kitchen archway, both smiling, both still, their black eyes drinking in the light without blinking. Duke growled, teeth bared, body pressed against Gary's legs. Gary raised the shotgun once more, pointing it directly at the boy. "I swear to God, one more step and I'll..." The boy cut him off with a whisper that shook the walls. "You already tried. Guns don't work here." The overhead light exploded with a pop. Glass showered down. The house plunged into darkness once again. Gary backed toward the hallway, dragging Duke with him. His heart hammered against his ribs so violently it hurt. "This isn't happening," he whispered. "This isn't..." The girl's voice slithered through the dark. "Just invite us in, Gary. End this. You don't have to fight." He clenched his teeth, forcing courage through the fear. "No, you'll never come in here." Then came a sound that nearly broke him, crying. A child's soft, pitiful sobbing echoed from the hallway, high-pitched, desperate. "Please, help us. We're lost." It didn't sound like the black-eyed children anymore. It sounded like a real child. Gary froze. His instincts screamed, "Don't believe it," but the sound was too human, too heartbreaking. "Please, mister," the voice wept. "It's so cold out here." Gary's grip on the shotgun faltered. Duke whimpered, pawing at his leg as if begging him not to move. And then silence again, until the whisper returned, sharp, cruel, mocking. "We almost had you. Gary stumbled backward into the bedroom, slamming the door shut and locking it. He pushed the dresser against it, barricading himself inside. Duke panted heavily at his side, eyes fixed on the crack under the door. From the hallway, the children began to knock again. Slow, steady, relentless. Knock, 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 and then scratching. Long, deep, nails dragging down the wood. Gary pressed his back to the wall, shotgun in his lap, flashlight trembling in his hand. He felt exhaustion settling into his bones. He couldn't keep this up forever. The whisper returned, soft this time, almost soothing. You'll open the door eventually. They all do. We are patient. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time lost all meaning. The knocking slowed, then faded. The scratching stopped. The whispers quieted. Dawn light crept through the window blinds. Birds chirped faintly outside. For the first time all night, the house was still. Gary collapsed to the floor, clutching Duke like a lifeline. He didn't sleep, he just sat there shaking, waiting for the next knock, but it never came. When the sun was fully up, he dared to leave the room. The house looked normal again. No broken glass. No scratches, no footprints. It was as if nothing had happened. But when he stepped outside, his blood ran cold. In the dirt of his front yard, just below the porch, were dozens of small footprints. Bare feet, pressed deep into the soil, circling the house again and again, too small to be adults. Too many to belong to just two children. Gary stood frozen, shotgun limp in his hand, Duke whining at his side. The prints stretched down the dirt road, vanishing into the trees. And faintly, carried on the wind, he heard it one last time. Knock, knock, knock. Epilogue: Gary never told anyone in town what had happened, not in full. He only said there'd been prowlers that night, and he didn't sleep much anymore. But neighbors noticed things. His porch light stayed on every night after that. He never opened the door to anyone, no matter the hour. And sometimes, when people passed his house at dusk, they swore they saw children standing at the edge of his yard, just watching. The end.